Welcome back to Outside View Scandals. Today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and frankly ironic chapters of ancient history. That's the Hyksos. You know, those foreign rulers who managed to control Egypt and stir up all kinds of resentment and conflict. Because nothing says we're here to help like foreign invaders taking over the country, right? Now, the story of the Hyksos is all about power, politics, and a bit of scandal that left a lasting mark on Egypt. The Hyksos, for those who aren't history buffs, were a group of people from the Near East who decided to try their hand at ruling Egypt. And for a while, they were pretty successful. I mean, they ruled for over a century, which is nothing to sneeze at, even if you are the most unwelcome guest in Egypt's long history. They took over during a period when Egypt was weak, because that's when all the good scandals happen, right? When no one's really paying attention. The Hyksos arrived with advanced military tech, including horse-drawn chariots, which made them seem like rock stars of warfare. Egyptians had never seen anything quite like it. So, what did they do? They rolled right in and took control of the northern part of the country, setting up shop in Avaris. Now, you'd think the Egyptians would have put up more of a fight, but they were caught off guard. The centralized government in Egypt was, let's say, less than effective at the time. It was a bit like a football team with no defense. The Hyksos, seeing this wide open opportunity, didn't just slip through the cracks. They bulldozed their way in. But here's where it gets juicy. The Hyksos didn't just rule like your average foreign overlords. Oh no, they embraced Egyptian culture. They were all, oh, look, we are one of you now. They even adopted Egyptian titles and gods to make it seem like everything was totally normal. Because nothing screams totally legitimate rulers like foreigners pretending to be local. And for a while, it worked. They gained wealth, power, and even a degree of acceptance. But here's the thing. No matter how much they tried to blend in, they were always seen as outsiders. Kind of like that friend who crashes your party and acts like they were invited. So the resentment among the Egyptians started simmering. People didn't love the idea of being ruled by a foreign elite, even if those rulers were trying really hard to fit in. The Egyptians eventually started to feel like they were losing their national identity. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't just about politics. This was personal. The Egyptians saw themselves as this proud ancient civilization, and suddenly they were under the thumb of people who came out of nowhere. And it didn't sit well. And you know how these things go. Resentment leads to conflict. And over time, the Egyptians grew more and more frustrated with the Hyksos. And while the Hyksos might have thought they were blending in perfectly, well, the Egyptians had other ideas. It's like trying to fix a broken vase with glue. It looks fine for a while, but eventually the cracks start to show. So how did this foreign rule end? Well, as you can imagine, it didn't exactly go smoothly. There was a push from the native Egyptians to take back control. One pharaoh in particular, that was Ahmose I, decided he had enough of these foreign rulers. He led a rebellion, and let's just say the Hyksos didn't stand a chance. Ahmose pushed them out, and the Egyptians regained their independence. Cue the celebration music, right? Well, not quite. The Hyksos left behind a complicated legacy. On one hand, their rule was seen as a dark chapter in Egypt's history, a time when the country lost its autonomy and was dominated by foreigners. On the other hand, The Hyksos did bring some important innovations to Egypt, like those fancy chariots. So was it all bad? Not exactly. But here's the thing about scandals. They are rarely clean-cut. They leave behind a mess of contradictions, unanswered questions, and lessons we pretend we've learned, but somehow always forget. And the Hyksos scandal is no different. It's a story of power, conflict, and the irony of trying to become part of something you've taken by force. So what can we learn from all this? Maybe that no matter how hard you try, you can't fake belonging. Or maybe just that foreign invasions never go over well. Either way, the Hyksos scandal is a reminder that history is full of twists, turns, and, let's face it, some pretty bizarre ironies. So thanks for tuning in to Outside View Scandals. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear more about the biggest scandals in history, ancient or otherwise. And remember, history always has a way of repeating itself, sometimes with more drama than a soap opera. Catch you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.